Hello everybody, this is Kirby over yonder, and Toy Story 4 is a film that everybody loves, except me. Yeah, truth be told, ever since I first saw this movie over a year ago now, I've always had very mixed thoughts about it. I don't hate it, but there are plenty aspects of it that, in my opinion, make it the weakest of the Toy Story movies. But there are plenty things I like about it too. The animation is gorgeous, the comedy is pretty decent, Bo Peep is an actual character now, and Gabby Gabby is a very interesting villain. However, those are things that everybody talks about with this movie, and it doesn't feel like there are many people speaking negatively about the film. That's where I come in. Worst Toy Story ever! Basically, there are 4 big reasons why I don't like Toy Story 4 as much as the others. I will be dedicating a part of this video to each one of those reasons. Basically, it's in the same format as one of those videos by that shiny guy, you know the guy? I will also mention that my reasons aren't listed in any particular order. However, the thing discussed in the final part is my least favorite thing about the movie. So with all that said and out of the way, here are my 4 big problems with Toy Story 4. So you know how in Toy Story 3, Bonnie was like, obsessed with Woody? And how Andy giving Woody to Bonnie was the big emotional moment of the film? Well, now Bonnie just doesn't care about Woody. And I know what you're thinking. But Bonnie is a small child, and small children usually have low attention spans. And yeah, that's true. But much like I said when talking about Too Old in my top 10 worst Adventure Time episodes, just because something is realistic doesn't make it believable. I don't feel like the movie does a very good job selling us on the idea that Bonnie just doesn't care about Woody anymore. I feel like it would have worked better for me if it was Woody along with a few other characters from previous films, because as it is now, it feels like the film is just singling out Woody specifically. And no, those random one-off toys that we've never seen before and will never see again don't count. I'm sure this complaint feels nitpicky to some, but considering the fact that Bonnie not caring about Woody anymore is the main catalyst of the film, I think it should have been handled better. I think it's safe to say that Woody is the main character of the Toy Story franchise. He's the character that most people think of first when it comes to Toy Story, and most of the conflicts revolve around him. And for the first 3 films, I didn't really mind this. However, by the time Toy Story 4 came around, then I started having a problem. A lot of Woody's arc here feels eerily similar to his arcs in previous films. For example, Woody not being sure whether or not he wants to separate himself from the rest of the gang is something that he already went through in Toy Story 2. Woody realizing that his kid is growing out of him is something he went through in Toy Story 3. I'm not saying Toy Story 4 directly ripped off any of the previous films, all I'm saying is it's not completely original either. And this is mainly because the main focus of the film is Woody. Woody's arc was already complete by the end of Toy Story 3, we didn't need to see more of it. If they had to do a Toy Story 4, I would have preferred if it focused on any of the other characters, or heck, maybe even a completely different set of toys we've never met before. To be fair, there are parts of Woody's arc that I genuinely enjoy. Like, I love the fact that he jumps out of the van to save Forky, as it contrasts really nicely with him pushing Buzz out of the window in the first movie, and it shows just how much he's grown as a character. In fact, the scene with him and Forky talking is probably my favorite in the entire movie. It's just really sweet. But all in all, I don't think this movie added much to Woody's character, and I feel as though he shouldn't have been the central focus of the film. But hey, what about the other characters? The Toy Story franchise has a lot of characters, and most of them are very likable. And in most of the movies, these toys get their own side plot separated from Woody. For example, in Toy Story 2, while Woody is hanging out with Jessie, Bullseye, and the Prospector, The other toys have their own side plot of them trying to save Woody. It's a ton of fun to see these characters on their own adventure and provides for some pretty great comic relief. However, Toy Story 4 doesn't really have this. Aside from Woody, Buzz, and Bo Peep, all of the characters that appear in the previous films basically get sidelined here. One of the only major scenes we get with the other toys is the scene with them hijacking the RV, which is actually a really funny scene and one of my favorites. However, it unfortunately doesn't last very long. This actually ties in a lot to the previous point I was making, because while the other Toy Story movies definitely focused a lot on Woody, at least there it still felt like the other toys did things. Here it doesn't really feel that way. Well, at least Buzz has a side plot, except it's pretty lame. It's basically just about him blindly doing whatever his voice buttons tell him to do. It doesn't really have a strong payoff, and it just kinda makes Buzz look really stupid. I'd take Spanish Buzz over this any day. Also, Ducky and Bunny are really annoying and not funny. I'm sure they have their fans, but I'm not one of them. The ending to Toy Story 3 is one of my favorite scenes in all of cinema. It's a scene about Andy realizing that he can't be a child forever, and that eventually he'll have to grow up. But it's also a scene about Woody realizing that even if he won't have Andy forever, he'll always be with his friends. It's a perfectly satisfying ending to one of the greatest trilogies of all time. At least, it would've been. So, yeah, instead of that, Woody just kinda goes off with Bo Peep. Yeah. The reason why I hate this ending is because it directly goes against everything Woody learned in the previous film. Toy Story 3 was a movie about Woody learning to always stick by his friends, because he needs them just as much as they need him. But nah, actually, Bo is the only one Woody needs. It's not like Woody has an even stronger bond with the rest of his friends or anything. I actually don't mind this ending that much out of context, but imagine watching this and Toy Story 3 back to back. It's like, what's even the message of this franchise? It also makes certain scenes in previous films a lot more awkward going back to, like how at the end of 2, Woody's like, after it's all over, I'll still have old Buzz to keep me company for infinity and beyond. Or at the end of 3, where Andy's like, you know, the thing about Woody is that he'll never give up on you. He'll always be there for you, no matter what. Yeah, I wouldn't be too sure about that, bud. I just don't get why they chose to do this. Everyone loved the ending to Toy Story 3. Nobody was asking for a better one. And this isn't something like BoJack where the ending is supposed to be somewhat unsatisfying and bittersweet. This is supposed to be a happy ending. I really wouldn't have minded if Toy Story 4 was just its own one-off adventure. It didn't have to be this big and new ending. Not that this is likely going to be the ending anyways. Because let's face it, there's probably going to be a Toy Story 5 someday, and I wouldn't be surprised if there were even more after that. Disney, it's okay to just let things end. You did that with Gravity Falls, and literally no one had a problem. I'm sorry, I don't want this to turn into a rant about sequels and reboots and remakes and all that stuff. It's just that the older I get, the more tired I get of seeing them. But anyways, I know my opinions on Toy Story 4 are kind of controversial, but I still agree with them wholeheartedly. Again, I don't think it's an awful film or anything, it just does some things that really rub me the wrong way. But anyways, please let me know how you feel about Toy Story 4 in the comments, and have a very good day. Kirby, out.